So when you see these guys in marriages after 10, 15 years, they're a shadow of who they're meant to be. They're quiet.
100%.
They don't speak. I now know how they got there. I know how it happens.
Yeah.
They know their daughter's not 100%, and they're teaching her how to play games to ensure they keep control. So this is the problem. How much is she to blame? Their daughter's a victim. I'm this abuser. I've done this, this, and this. And when you're sitting there defending things that are lies, that don't exist, you've already lost. So forget getting control, financial abuse, and there's another one that I have to say showed as a threat to life that you previously tried to strangle her 6 months ago, whatever. Yeah, so
So she had this ready.
yeah, so
Corruption and severing the ties on earth are similar. A major sin and the curse of Allah is upon you. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the one who cuts the ties of kinship does not enter paradise.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to another episode of AAA Talks. I am your host, Muaz. Alongside me is...
Safe.
And today we have a guest that is with us today, joining today, Brother Farook, who has been chewed up by the system, spat back out, made homeless, made jobless, dragged through family courts, children getting taken away from him. It's a sad story, but he's here with a message, and he's here to help others who have gone through it. But I haven't given your story justice, Farouk. So could you just tell the audience what you went through, inshallah?
yeah, just firstly, thank you for having me. Appreciate you guys bringing me on, allowing me
It's
a
a pleasure.
platform to speak about this. So ultimately, March 16th, 2022, my nikah relationship ended ultimately after 10 years. I had
10
three
years,
children.
subhanallah.
Yeah, I was in it for a decade. I was from the generation that, grew up in the 80s, and from that generation that when you got married, you were locked in. I had that mindset. So once I, got my nikah done, I was locked in as far as I was concerned. So I was in it for 10 years. Ultimately, it ended, and the day it ended, my eyes opened to the reality of what the system is and what is going on out here after a relationship ends. So once I realized the reality and the pain and turmoil that goes on, which is hidden in plain sight, I felt compelled to try and expose this to help others and ultimately make the path easier for others who end up here.
And that's when you started Disqualified Dad.
Yeah, so November, around late 2022, September, October, November, around that time, I got into social media and I started Disqualified Dads to try and bring awareness around this whole subject.
Okay. Do you mind talking us through, well, I guess, we're going to get into children being taken away from you, how you were made jobless, homeless, career down the drain. But do you mind rewinding a bit and telling us from the start, how did this happen? I'm assuming you're from a Pakistani or Bengali background.
Gujarati Indian. Yeah.
Gujarati Indian. Yeah. Okay, my bad.
Completely
Completely wrong.
Close.
But it's almost like taboo in in the culture
Yes.
for you to get a divorce. So how did it eventually get to that? And let's start with that.
Yeah, no, I'll talk you through it, and that's exactly my point. So I had that mindset. Like, if you grew up in the 80s, Bollywood, there was an element of marriage was the pinnacle. So ultimately, from our communities, Asian communities, you went to school, you studied, you got a job, and then you got married. That was the destination. Eventually, when I got married, and even getting married in itself, that time was difficult, as in finding a spouse, community pressures, social pressures. If you ain't got a degree, if you're from a trade background, if your family's not well off or don't have status, your options are already limited, and the pool that you could sort of choose from. So there's all these social problems that come with it. Now, at the time, I wasn't aware of this. It's only looking back now that I can understand all the issues and where they start at root cause. And root cause is, I think, most people, especially at that time, when you got married, you sort of settled. No one went out to say, this meets everything for me, hence I'm going to get married. And ultimately, at that time as well, there's a generation, if you married for yourself or you were being a bit too fussy, you were seen as selfish. There was almost a pressure that you were getting married for everyone else. So there was an overall social community pressures that were there anyway, which everyone faced at the time. But I can only articulate that now. But even getting past all of that, eventually met someone through a friend, a relative of a friend and whatnot, and thought, I could make this work. We can make this happen. It was a normal, hard-working, working class Gujarati family. Seemed very down to earth. So I thought, okay, this could work. Seemed very.
She was Gujarati as well, right?
She was Gujarati from West
You were
London.
in your 20s when you got married? Or?
No, I was, and again, I got married in my 30s. So I
early
got married
30s.
late as well, yeah. So
Mashallah.
according to the community, that would have been pretty late, and she was in her 30s as well. So I left it long enough, sort of thing, and there was that pressure to just get it done. So ultimately, with all the hurdles that I faced in trying to get married and meeting someone, when I met this person, I thought, you know what, they seems pretty normal on the surface, seems like a normal, hard-working family. What could go wrong? You know, they said, we're here to support you and all of these sort of things. I thought, okay, let's give it a go. So once I then got my nikah done, got the ball rolling, ultimately I started noticing certain behaviors. Now, at the time, I couldn't make sense of this, but you know when something's not right. And the only way I can describe it now, looking back, is it's a form of personality disorder, generational trauma that she was carrying from, I think there was some violence between her mum and dad. Her dad used to be old school, very controlling, used to control the finances in the home. And I think generationally that was almost sort of normal back then as well. So I don't want to, you know, attack that generation directly, but it was the norms of that generation ultimately. And I think as her dad was quite an aggressive man. So her witnessing this with her mum, I think it's that generational trauma where they've got it in their mind that I'm not going to be a victim. So that once we're living together and whatnot in the nikah, I notice every conversation is difficult. Now, when you're living with someone, and if every conversation is met with a defensive response, that person's always got their backup with you. Now, you can't live with someone or have a relationship with someone who's always looking at you as the object of their, what's the word I'm looking for? Object of their sort of abuse, or you're their abuser, so they're constantly on the defensive. So communicating was difficult because a normal conversation is met with a defensive approach. But at the time, I couldn't understand, like, why is it so difficult to have a normal conversation? And because
This must have not been early on in the marriage. It must have been.
No. It wasn't apparent. But the thing is, you got to understand. I can articulate this now. At the time, it's hard to understand that. Why is it so hard to have a conversation? It was straight from the off. I noticed this, and what I also noticed was the attitude from her parents. It's like they're aware of this, but they will defend any behavior on their part just to make it look like the problem is the other person. That was the attitude from day one. I noticed these things. And the problem is I was naive to these things. If you're not aware, you've not been in these situations, you've not dealt with someone of that sort of disorder, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, for example, and the problem with this disorder as well is there's a constant drama going on in her mind. Like, there's narrative constantly going on in her mind, and reality is then bent to suit that narrative. So there's constant elements of everyone she meets outside of, say, me and her, there's always a sob story as to how hard she's got it, what a bad man I am, and I'm not doing this and that. And you're oblivious to this. You have no knowledge of this. To you, if you look at her, for example, you see this soft, nice, caring woman, makes brownies for everyone. Everyone thinks she's lovely and comes across like that. And you're thinking that as well. But when she goes to mum and dad's, she's giving them this sob story. I'm working all day and he's forcing me to do this. I'm going to his parents' house and cleaning and cooking. It's just made up things to attract emotion and attention. That's what it is. It is to play the victim. So then when I go to the mum and dad's house, you get these little subtle digs. You don't even know where they're coming from. It's so subtle you can't pinpoint it, but they're ultimately disrespecting you to your face. But I was from a generation where I thought my parents said elders respect you, treat them like your parents.
Yeah, just let it go.
Yeah, and the problem with that is wrong. You have to have assertive boundaries with everyone in life. But we're not, if you're not taught this or you don't know this naturally, and we just have this perception of elders, respect, you let it go, let it go. And when you let things go, when the boundaries get completely blurred, there's no going back. Lost respect cannot be gained.
Yeah.
So I was putting up with this,
So you just became their doormat.
I was effectively an indirect doormat, and ultimately, because I didn't understand what was going on, because it's hard to articulate to someone what is the problem. So he said, well, I can't talk to him. It's hard to explain why you can't talk to someone. But it's looking back now, I can see fully, once I've now looked into this personality disorder. Even when we watched that documentary, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, they call it that's histrionic personality disorder, over dramatic. Now there's different spectrums of this, which now I understand, and now I can fully articulate what it was and what it is, and I wasn't the issue. A normal conversation would be you spoken back to, like you're the abuser, you're the attacker. But this went on for 10 years, ultimately. I had 3 children. I was locked in. I didn't see a way out. I thought, it is what it is. I've got to soldier on. These are my kids. This is my lot. I didn't see the fact that there was an option of divorce, ultimately, or,
And you were locked in for the sake of the kids?
I was locked in from my own conditioning as to when you got in the garden, you got in the garden. And the problem is, I was locked in because of my own beliefs, because now I look back, I was a people pleaser. Because when you're looking at this person who's always playing the victim, you got to remember, even in front of you, they're always playing the victim. So subconsciously, when you're with your sort of, it's like being a hostage. I was in an emotional prison and I was a hostage in my own life. And when you're with this person, because there's 2 types of this disorder, it's covert and overt. If it's overt, they're overtly aggressive to your face. Mine was a lot more subtle because she looked very soft and calm, and she played emotional games and used the children for leverage. So she wasn't overtly aggressive, it was all covert. So you subconsciously feel sorry for her, thinking, oh, well, I can't do this to her. You get sucked into that paradigm as well, and you're living with that person. It's going to affect you. Then I used to look at her parents and go, oh, what can I do? It's not their fault. And I'd feel bad, so I thought, I just got to get on with it. I just got to carry on. I got to soldier on. Then add to that, the children, I got to soldier on for the kids. So I was living in that. It's a prison. You're living in a prison where to the world, you're this monster, but really you're locked in and isolated. And there's a lot of tactics that are used to isolate you. So I was isolated from my family because she made it, she ensured she didn't get along with my family, my brothers and sisters. My kids are not allowed to play with their cousins. It's their form of control, because once you control the kids, you can isolate the other person. And if your family feel uncomfortable around, say, your missus, and they're trying to avoid you because they're made to feel really uncomfortable, indirectly they avoid you. That person's now isolated. He's a man from a community. You can't talk about this. You can't go around telling someone this. You don't even understand it yourself. So how are you going to explain it? The more you get isolated, then their family are there to babysit and support. And then it's conversations of, shall we move closer to my mum and dad's house? Shall we? This is how it's done slowly over years. So when you see these guys in marriages after 10, 15 years, they're a shadow of who they're meant to be. They're 100%. Quiet, they don't speak. I now know how they got there. I know how it happens.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not even 10, 15 years later, sometimes a year after marriage.
You're done, yeah.
The guys looking all grisly come out of his cave, you know, beard is all over the place, hair is all over the place, he's put on a ton of weight. And it's just like, bro, where the hell have you been? It's like, you know, it's people think that it's romantic or it's very selfless, and that's what you have to do as a husband. You know, you have to just basically give in to every woman's desire, put her feelings first, but you just become a shadow of the former man, of the man that you are.
Absolutely, you become a shadow, and the problem is because because half the problem is you can't understand what's going on. And there's a humiliation, like who can you go and tell, especially in the community? How do you tell someone that I'm sort of emotionally controlled? I don't know how, I can't explain it, but I can't go here or there. I'm scared to take my own kids out because I know there's going to be dramas.
But do you think that the woman even knows what she's doing? Or has she been conditioned by that? Has she subconsciously seen her parents behave that way?
The thing is, right, look, there's 2 ways to look at it. It depends on where the spectrum of the disorder is now. There's an element of me that thinks that, okay, if someone is, say, mentally unwell, how much liability and blame do they hold? So that is a question you got to, I think, we can all sort of think about that question, yeah? But the problem is around these people and the sort of community we're from, there are people that enable this. So let's say if your own mum and dad or brother and sister pull you up and give you sensible advice and say, look, you ain't got a bad gig here, like you need to stop doing this or that. Or if you've raised your daughter, if her parents, for example, they've raised her, she's lived with them for 30 years, they must have some idea of habits, behaviors. Does she tell little lies? What does she do? Is she over dramatic? They know that you know your daughter to a certain degree. So they could have intervened and said to her, listen, you need to just pipe it down a little bit, or don't come here, moan about your husband. Like, and the other thing with that is everything that happened in my household, they seem to know every detail of every conversation that goes on in my household. Now, if a 30-year-old woman is going to a mum who's in late 60s and 70s, telling her everything that goes on in her marriage, and even then getting advice from her and how to play these games, they are not enabling it. They know their daughter's not 100%, and they're teaching her how to play games to ensure they keep control. So this is the problem. How much is she to blame? Allahu alim, I can't say. You could say she's mentally unwell. If someone asked me, someone said, like, does she believe all of this? And this is where you got to understand, for the person in it is concerning, because she's the main carer of your children ultimately, right? In your mind, you're thinking, if she's not right, it's going to affect the kids. So I need to toe the party line, not trigger her, because she's looking after your kids ultimately.
Yeah.
Thirdly, no one's going to believe you. If you look at her and you look at me, no one's going to ultimately believe what I'm saying. If she starts crying and saying, I've been abused, it's game over, right? And and she's looking after your kids. And the scary thing is, if I was to say to you that reality was one thing, but in her mind, I genuinely believes that she believes all of this happened. So is she lying about all of this? I don't think she's lying. This is the scary thing. She genuinely believes this. And this I've noticed in many, many cases now, since where I speak to a lot of men, a lot of fathers going through the system, the behavior patterns, the trigger points. And when I explain to them that, is this what it was like? It's like, they've like, yes, you understand. Finally, someone gets it, because no one can understand the behavior. And the scary thing is, because she genuinely believes this, I'm not qualified to deal with the husband, the person in the relationship, me. We're not qualified to deal with this ultimately.
Yeah, I just want to take you back a little,
Yes.
just on the point from her, because you mentioned she was doing sob stories at times and she was emotionally controlling. That what were some of her day-to-day complaints? I heard you mention she was overworked. She would complain to her family about that. Like the traditional lifestyle was there. You were working, you were going off to work, and she was at home looking after the kids, cooking and cleaning. That sort of...
No. Mine was, again, so let me put it into context, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
As you know, in the community, it's very normal to live with your parents for a few years, move out. I don't believe in none of that. I'm an independent guy. I lived on my own before I was married. I had my own place. We never lived in the joint family straight away. So from the off, own place. Yeah? There was no expectation of anything as far as my parents are concerned.
You have younger brothers, though.
I have younger brothers,
Yeah,
sisters.
but in our community, when you have younger brothers, they usually take the lead in looking after the
No,
parents.
we're independent, bro. I don't personally believe in all of that, and my family have now come to that way of thinking. That, you know, we're there when my parents, like, we're there for our parents, but we're all live independently. Parents live independently. We're there every day. We look after them. We support them. But I never believed in that. I was an independent guy from day one. So I lived independently before I even got together with her, right? So there was no expectation or duties towards mum and dad. My mum and dad have, 6 children. They're well looked after. They don't need anyone else's daughter to do anything for them ultimately, yeah? So there was none of that expectation. There was no issue with, if you want to work. If you want to study. If you don't want to work, don't work. She had a job. She was a manager at a big superstore. Do what you like. Be free. Enjoy your life. Whatever. It was so easy. Like, there was no expectation ultimately in that sense. But within a week of getting together, I can give an example of the situation. So this is when I noticed when I look back now, a red flag. So week after we got in the car done, moved in, following weekend, went to her mum and dad's house, as you do. I'm thinking they're family now, spend some time together. Now, the first weekend I see her dad at their house after we got in the car done, he's now talking in a very different tone, and he starts telling me stories. Because in the community, sometimes when you're sitting with elders, they don't talk directly. People tell you stories and try and direct them at you. So he starts telling me about how my son and daughter-in-law, they're independent, they live separately, we don't need them for anything. And I noticed his demeanor and body language change, and I thought, this ain't the guy that I knew a week ago. This ain't the man that I saw 2 weeks ago before the Nikah. He's now a different character. He's got a different energy about him. Me being a bit of a simp, bit naive, thinking, well, there's elders, respect, doesn't matter. Sitting there smiling like a simp ultimately. And my missus at the time, she's sitting next to me, not thinking, why is he? I'm thinking, why would he be saying this? And, you know, she's sitting there next to me smiling, knowing that she's already been telling the dad within a week that apparently I've forced her to take her around my mum and dad's house and cook and clean there. And the reality is we have witnesses there at the time who were at the house. Let me give you an example of the sort of thing that happens with this personality disorder. So a couple of days in, I popped into my mum's house. I said, look, let's go out. Let's go see my mum quickly. I pop into my mum's house. My sister lived at my mum's house at the time. My sisters were living there, right, yeah? So they're saying, right, guys, married couples, sit down, we'll make you breakfast and all of this. And my sister was at the house. She's hoovering the place up, right, yeah? So she at the time then gets up and goes, oh, let me hoover. They go, no, relax, you're here, chill, you just got married, you don't need to do this, you're not here for this. She no, let me hoover. Like, and you know when you say to someone, no, relax, and they force themselves onto you, grabs the hoover and takes over, starts hoovering the place from her own will. Like, she ultimately,
Okay.
yeah, this is what I'm saying. And you know when it's a bit uncomfortable, people look around and think like, okay, this is a bit awkward. Yeah, all right, crack on, you're a bit hoover happy, crack on, no problem. But when she's finished doing that, when she calls her mum that night, oh, I went to the mum and dad's house, they forced me to hoover the house.
Wow.
That, and this is the problem. This is what I'm saying. You ain't ready for this.
Okay.
There's reality as you know it. Your perception of what you've seen has happened is just a situation that happened at the time, no big deal. But when the message going back is completely spun to something else. Now, the truth is, yes, she was hoovering. She did hoover, but she forced herself upon the hoover and forced herself to hoover the house and forced the other person to sit down. But in her mind, she's now become the victim. So what happens is reality is bent to suit the narrative. So you force the action and then make out you were the victim. So in her mind, her mum and dad are thinking, oh, 1 week in and they're already forcing her to cook and clean. So when I went to mum and dad's house the following week, and this, I only found this out years later, because her mum and dad said, you're forcing her to clean this and that and hoover. And that's when I thought, where did this all come about? And then we found out, remember that situation? And I'm like thinking, bloody hell, you can't fathom that someone would make that up.
Yeah.
So when I go to mum and dad's house a week later, he's giving me this bad energy, this indirect digs, and you think, okay, like, where's this coming from? Because in your mind, this never happened. I presume he's just talking about a random story.
Yeah, but in those situations, if you're in front of the father-in-law, you say, this is completely untrue. She done that at her own will.
But he never said it directly. No, but this is what I'm saying. It wasn't directly, you did this. It was like his voice was raised and he started telling me about my son and daughter are independent. We don't need them for anything. Kids should live an independent life, that. I was like, yeah, I agree. I do live alone. I do. And that's when I said, you got to say, I couldn't defend it because I didn't know if he was directly having a go at me because it never happened in reality. Look, you can't defend against something that you have no knowledge of. If I have a dig at you, but you don't know what you think I know about you, you don't even know what you're defending.
Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to say. You don't know what you're defending.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll give you another example. So once, another scenario, and this is what you're up against, right? Yeah. So one of her relatives, I think, passed away. A dad phoned up. I said, yeah, no problem. I said, listen, you need to go. Your dad's waiting for you, West London, right? I'm here at home. I've got the kids. Just go, get in your car, whatever. If you want to take the train, I'll drop you to the station, but you need to go now, yeah? I'll look after the kids. Hour later, still around the house, like, just, I don't know what was going on. I said, listen, you need to go. Your dad's waiting for you. Because no, I've just made everyone breakfast. I'm like, no one's hungry. No one wants to eat. Your dad's waiting. No, I thought I'll just make you guys breakfast so you're done for the day. Okay, thank you for that. You need to go. She gets in the car and goes, I'm forced to eat this breakfast that I never wanted, that I've never asked for. The kids are forced to eat this food because it's now being cooked. No one asked for it. No one wants it. When she gets to the other side, you got to understand how this happens now. She gets to the other side. Her dad's obviously having a go at her. Why are you late? What's going on? Where have you been? This and that. Oh, I couldn't get out of the house because he forced me to make him breakfast. Like, how can I don't know she said that to him. So when I see him, he's got this in his head. He's now giving me this indirect digs and bad energy. It's not done directly. You understand? It's all a bit indirect. And when it's indirect, I can't pinpoint it to any reference point because in my reality, it never happened. So you think, is he having a go at me? Is it just his medication? And every time I used to question her, why would your dad say this? It's, oh, he's on steroids, his medication, this, that. And I'm thinking, listen, maybe you need to change his medication because he's always having these little digs.
And she would never confront you about it.
No, but she's got a face for every scenario and situation. She can pull on the victim face.
Bit of a sociopath, man.
But this is what I'm talking about, bro. Men, or a lot of brothers are in these marriages. And if you look at brothers now, look, if you've never been in a relationship, you've never been in a marriage, I had some life experience, so I could pinpoint that this ain't right, but what do I do? I'm stuck. This sociopath has got my kids.
Yeah.
I am effectively a hostage. Another scenario, and let me tell you how you establish control, especially as well. When you have kids, right, they do erratic behavior in front of the children. They'll behave erratically. And you think, hold on, like, if I don't nod along, like you're thinking of your kids, your instinct is to protect your child. You're thinking, if she's a bit unpredictable and she's got the baby, I need to think about the baby. Maybe it's best not to challenge her. This is how control is established.
Wow.
I'll give you another scenario. This happened to me, and I realized I knew I was in danger from then on. I was a hostage. So when my first daughter was born, 2 weeks old, we're talking like Christmas time. It's cold outside. We're talking -2, ice on the streets everywhere. Middle of the night, with the baby crying, all of that. So doing the milk, putting her to bed, whatever, and wakes us up ultimately. So in that period, we was having some conversation, and I disagreed with her about something during middle of the night, 3 o'clock. And during this disagreement, like I said, 2-week-old baby, grabs the baby, wraps a blanket around the baby, rushes out the house, jumps in the car, wheel spins off you go. I'm thinking like,
What?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So you're thinking, okay, I'm a little bit stunned, thinking, okay, in your pajamas.
Just because of an argument?
Not even an argument, because I disagreed with something. It was so trivial that I can't even remember what it was. I don't even remember the conversation before the incident. She grabs the baby, wraps her up in a blanket, jumps in a car, drives off. So now I'm sitting there thinking, like, okay, what just happened? This is erratic behavior. Now, if you're behaving erratically yourself is one thing. When you've got a 2-week-old baby, middle of the night, -2 or 3, icy roads, unpredictable, mother driving around with a baby, you start thinking, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Maybe I keep quiet. If something happens to them, is it my fault now? What if they have an accident? What if something happens to the baby? And hour later, drives back, she comes back, puts the baby down, crawls into bed, and in the morning, oh, hi, do you want breakfast? Like nothing's happened.
Whoa.
This is to establish that I'm a little bit unpredictable. I can do anything. I've got a baby. Maybe you should never challenge me on anything and just do as I nod along with what told the party line.
That is scary, man.
But this is how it's done. So if you just sort of had a kid, your first kid, you're not experienced with these things. You're living on your own. You're with someone. You already know they're unpredictable. You feel you're locked in. You don't really see that you have any other option but to head down and soldier on. You can't talk to her. You can't talk to anyone else. You can't understand this. You can't articulate it. What do? I survived 10 years. And a lot of guys I know, this manifests in some way or the other in their body, their mind, their personality. They break in one way or the other.
Yeah, so I want to fast forward. So who initiated divorce then?
I did. 10 years on, so move along, 10 years.
You just had enough of all of this behavior.
One morning, I just snapped and I thought, before I snap and something's going to happen, something just overtook me, bro. I just got this courage one morning. Something overtook me. No, I'll tell you what happened. There was a build-up.
Do you think that's a snap decision? Because to me, it sounds like it was an accumulation of factors.
It was an accumulation of 10 years.
10 years.
It was an accumulation of 10 years, right? So what happened was I tried to confront these issues with her parents. I'll tell you the build-up to the talaq, right? Yeah. So a few years prior to the talaq, so it was around 2018, 2019, I thought, let me try and address these issues because I took my children out. One day I was looking at, again, if I was looking after my kids, it was called as babysitting. I'm not allowed to leave the house with them. I'm effectively treated like a babysitter. I'm not allowed to take them to my brother's house. I sort of met with this resistance. I don't know why. So anyway, one day...
I know so many guys that are in that.
No, but I was conditioned and I was questioning myself. And then I thought to myself, hold on, why am I even thinking twice about it? Took the kids, went to my mum's, dropped them off there and went out. I had to do something. And then the backlash from that, you said you were going to babysit. And I thought, but they're my kids. When you go to your parents' house, leave them here, there, there's no issue. Why is it that any time the children spend any time with my family or their cousins, brothers and sisters, what is the issue? So I thought, let me call her parents to try and address this for the sake of my kids. Call her parents down. They just come in, all guns blazing, shouting and screaming. I've never seen them like this. shouting all sorts of abuse, and basically they're the victim, their daughter's a victim, I'm this abuser, I've done this, this and this. And when you're sitting there defending things that are lies, that don't exist, you've already lost. So get me speaking about the situation with the kids and this control and what our issues are. All guns blazing, aggressive, and just you're the bad guy. And I thought it's pointless. So at that point, after the meeting, and the thing with them is they genuinely thought that you could speak to someone like that, and afterwards we shake hands and we all live like happy families. So I said after that point, I want no communication with your parents or family. Done, right? Yeah. So I stopped communicating with her parents from that point onwards. And I thought we can carry on ultimately, right? Got kids, I've got to just carry on. This might make things easier, I thought. But as time progressed, you go back into your old habits. I have to go work on weekends. I say, look, take the kids to my parents' house. You don't have to be there. You don't have to spend time with my parents. You don't have to spend time with my brothers and sisters, your sister-in-laws. It's fine. No one cares. But these kids have 15, 16 cousins, brothers and sisters of their own age that they want to play with. Do not deny these kids. So it's like, yeah, okay, fine, right? So what happens? I'm going to work. So when I come home, kids, did you go to your parents? Yeah, it was boring. Why? What happened? Oh, we quickly went there in the morning, sat there for an hour or two. As soon as the other kids and stuff came, we got up and left. So I'm thinking, like, how do I battle this? This went on and on and on. And then...
You were living separately by
No,
then?
no, I was still living in the family home. We were still together. We were still living there. I just stopped speaking to her parents. So then it went on from there, 2019 to 2022. Early in November 2021, there was an incident at home where she got really erratic and started trying to record me when I was trying to play with the kids. I'm trying to teach the kids and do stuff with the kids, and she kept having to go at the kids. She takes it out on the kids. The kids have noticed that mum's not right. I was like, yeah, don't talk about your mum like that, but what do I do? How do I deal with this? And there's situations where I noticed that, a couple of incidents where I came on one day, midsummer, we're talking like 35 degrees outside, 6 in the evening is hot. So I came on from work early one day. I walk in and I noticed the kids crying in the bedroom. I walk in, they got the curtains closed, they're in the blanket, sweating, in their pajamas, in bed. I said, what are you doing? I said, it's 35 degrees. There's kids playing outside. Why are you in bed? Oh, mum put us to bed and this and that. I went, why? And she's punishing them for something or other, for being kids, ultimately. And I thought, I can't confront her. My eldest daughter said to me on a few occasions, mum's a bit funny, ain't she? I was like, look, don't say anything. If I say something to mum and if I back her up on this, when I'm not around, she's going to take it out on the kids. And then I started noticing that. This took 10 years. I started noticing as well. When I'm in the room doing something with the kids, you want to watch this? They're like, yeah, Dad, let's do it. 5 minutes later, if she walks in the room, they're like, no, Dad, we don't want to do that. But why? And then I started noticing, like, with the daughters as well, with the little boy, he's just wild, like, she couldn't control him. But with the girls, she used to walk in the room, give them a little look, and their demeanor changed. And I started noticing this control. And I thought, I got to do something about this. So one day I stood up and I said, listen, you need to stop doing this to the kids, right? Yeah, this has to stop right now, yeah? Me and the kids are doing something right now. She went really erratic, got her phone out, started coming at me with the phone. I had to restrain her.
In front of the kids?
In front of the kids, I had to physically restrain her now, yeah? And then once I restrained her, again, she's going back telling everyone I abused her, tried to strangle her, all of this sort of stuff, but nothing happened. And at that point, I realized something's got to give. I thought, I cannot now engage with her on any level. So from November 2021 to March 16, 2022, I was living in the same house, slept in the same. I did not say one word to her. I just stopped all communication with her directly. Didn't speak to her, nothing. And March 16th, 2022, after a night shift, I came on one morning and that's it. I was taking the kids to school that morning. So the kid said to me, Dad, take us to school, blah, 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 blah. I said, all right, kid, let's go. I'll take you to school. She comes out. If we're going to go, we're going as a family, this, that. You're not taking them. And real drama, right, over
So there was always pushback with everything?
There was pushback with little things where I could try and get involved. So initially it was very subtle. So when the kids were young, it's like, if I was to pop out and say, look, let me quickly take the kids out. I'm going to my mum. They can see their grandma quickly. It's like, oh, it's their bedtime. It's shower time. It's dinner time. It's story time. It's some excuse or other to stop me from taking. As time progressed now, kids want to spend time with me. They want to do stuff. They're having fun with Dad. But if you control that bond, you control the game ultimately. So even that morning, it was kids knew that I wasn't even talking to her. They noticed, but they're like, Dad, take us to school. She started going off on one because I didn't communicate with her. I said, kids, just go to school with your mum. Don't worry, we'll take you out another time. And I realized I don't even have the power to take my kids to school. This has to stop. The kids need to have a relationship with their grandparents, on my side, with their cousins, brothers and sisters, their uncles and aunties. And ultimately, my daughter said she didn't even know the name of my sister, one of their aunties, right, over 10 years. That's not an accident. That's when I realized the severity of this situation where they can't even recall the names of their aunties. When I used to take them to my parents occasionally, they sat there half an hour before they started playing. It's like they were at a stranger's house. When you witness this over 10 years, and then when you witness how the kids are at her parents' house, no rules, nothing, play, jump here, there, go to the brother, sister's house. Now, I'm not going to stop my kids from having fun and having a relationship with their family. Yeah, go on, kids, enjoy yourself. And I noticed these kids are hers and theirs. I'm just a passenger on this train. I'm a passenger on this ride. I've got no say. And as time will progress, the influence I'll have on my kids is being reduced. It's called pre-alienation. Now I understand it fully. When you talk to the kids, they'll talk about their grandparents on her side and uncles and aunties and they have so much fun. In conversation, they won't even mention their grandparents. From my side, they don't even talk about their uncles and aunts. They don't even know their names. They have limited relationships. That doesn't happen overnight. And they live, just to clarify, 10-minute drive up the road. Her parents an hour away, other side of London, East London to West London, her whole family. But they've spent more time in 10 years with their family. My kids haven't even spent not one full weekend with any member of my family or even their cousins. And my brother lived 3 minutes walk from my house. On one occasion, I've taken them around alone and left them there in 10 years. That's not an accident. And because she's the main carer, I'm out working, trying to build, because there's always pressure to work and build and pay bills and, provide ultimately.
Yeah. So you get the divorce.
Yeah, so March 16, 2022.
Let's talk about family courts.
Yes, I'll tell you what happened. So that morning, I come home after the school run. I just came home. When she came home from the school run, I walk in and I just gave 3 talaqs on the spot and walked out, right, yeah? So, and when I gave the talaq, look, I just want to put it out there. It wasn't like some easy decision. It wasn't loud. I was almost shaking, yeah. It was something it went against the grain of what I grew up to believe and what I was conditioned to believe and was ultimately. Otherwise, I would have done it years ago. But
did you feel like you exhausted all options and that was the last, and that's it? You had no choice but to give her the divorce?
I've given it a decade. I've given it 1 decade, yeah. So if you're 40 years old, that's 25% of your life you gave, and I soldiered on. And I look at people in the same scenario now that I meet. 1 year marriage, 6 months, 3 months, 2 years tops. So when I look back, the decade that I put in was only because of generational conditioning. And I'll highlight this as well. I would have carried on till the end if the control around the kids wasn't as aggressive as it was. If I just had a relationship with my kids where I could feel free to take them out and do stuff and not being watched, if they had a relationship with their grandparents, I would have carried on. Like, I would have soldiered on. It wouldn't have mattered.
And how old were the kids when you got the divorce? At the time, the
kids were, I'll tell you, this was 3, 6, and 8 at the time. So March tough. 16th, they were young age, really small. I do talaq in the morning. That evening, when I come back home, police come along. I'm arrested. Police cars come, police vans, they come along.
They arrest you in the house?
Yeah, they arrest me at that. So she's not there. I've come home. I've told my parents, look, this is what's happened.
On the day of the talaq?
Day of the talaq.
You got arrested?
Same evening, I'm arrested. Now, when they arrest me, I've got my son on me, so they take my son off me. He starts crying. So I said, all right, what's going on? And this is how it starts. So they said, we're arresting you for historic abuse, coercive control, financial abuse, and there's another one that I have to say showed as a threat to life that you previously tried to strangle her 6 months ago, whatever. Yeah, so these are the terms that have to be used.
So she had this ready.
Yeah, so been known to me, she knew again, and not just my case. Every case that I deal with, all the guys have no clue about the law, the system, and all of these women were 10 steps ahead. They know the law, they know the system, they know the triggers and buttons to push. Like, they knew it inside out. So once I'm arrested, I have no idea what's going on. I'm arrested, 24 hours in the cell. And also the advice to anyone out there, they're going to give you the free legal aid lawyer when you're there. Make sure you take that lawyer, because the one piece of advice he might give you might help you. He gave me one piece of advice that, alhamdulillah, that got me NFA'd the next day and out, no problem, right?
That got you what?
NFA, so it's no further action. So
Okay.
the police gave me 24
What
hours.
was
or
that
so.
piece of advice?
No, what it is, I tried to explain certain scenarios and situations. It was the advice is very nuanced to a specific scenario, so it won't be relevant to everyone. But the advice is take the lawyer and just listen to what he says. If he gives you some advice, listen to it and take it, because you can very easily, in being the noble guy, you could easily incriminate yourself, because you got to understand.
Of course, yeah. If you talk too much, you might be incriminating
Yeah.
yourself.
So just keep it simple. Keep it simple and straight. Because the problem with this is, right, you got to remember, like, coercive control and financial abuse ultimately could mean anything. Financial abuse is you had a discussion with your missus about your monthly expenses, and you said, we need to keep within this budget this month because we're running a bit short. That's financial abuse. That's you controlling her. Yeah. So
Wow.
And that's just silly altogether, the whole idea of financial abuse, because from a Muslim household, he's the provider. So he has the control over the finances. If she asks for something silly and he says no, then that could be targeted as financial.
No, but think about this, right? Yeah. If we take the Muslim angle, they will use that against you, right? Yeah. But the reality is,
what was it? Spiritual manipulation?
no.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
No, there's that aspect to it. But look, the thing is this: she was working. She had her own account. She had debit cards. There's transactions, and in a lot of cases, that argument goes out the window because a lot of women work. A lot of sisters are working. They've got their own money, and if not, there's transactions from your account to her account showing that you're giving her money. So my point, even with all of this, she could still claim like, oh look, I'm being financially abused or controlled. So if you come out with that angle, they will use that in family court. That is used to say, look, he's traditional, he's Muslim, he's backward. They have a blueprint for every community, culture, and background, ultimately.
Yeah, no, of course.
And the Muslim angle is, he's very religious, he's strict. And like I said, I know Alima sisters to very liberal sisters, they've all put the Islamic card. And even Alima sisters have said, his family are extreme. I know one case where this sister's an alima. She was an alima who taught other alima, so she's like a head alima, yeah?
Yeah.
She stood there in family court in this one specific case I know and said, I don't want the kids to be around their grandparents because I'm worried his parents, they pray the Quran loudly and my kids might get radicalized. I'm talking head alima. Understand what I'm saying, bro? This sister teaches other alimas, right? Yeah. This is the sort of stuff they're saying in family court, yeah? They're accusing brothers with beards and hats, he's forcing me to wear the hijab. Sisters that have worn the niqab their whole life, before they were married, have said in family court, he's forcing me to wear the hijab and niqab.
Yeah.
He controls what I wear.
I've seen it.
So all of these things are being used against.
Could you share some of the examples that were used against you?
Yeah, so I'll tell you. So mine were the classic. And mine was now... one was a financial abuse, but ultimately, look, there's statements, there's documents to undo all of this. But all of this is irrelevant. You've got to understand this. So the three buzzwords are, look, financial abuse, coercive control, and threat to life. The threat to life, most cases you'll hear, he either tried to strangle me or he pushed me down the stairs. It's a consistent story you keep hearing. I think they watch a lot of drama, and it's a pattern that seems to be what they use for threat to life. Financial abuse is, like you said, if you're Muslim, they'll use a Muslim card. He controls it. He controls the finances. If you have a joint account, they say, he took the debit card off of me, or he controlled all the money. The problem is it's a very loose term with financial abuse, right? In family court, you understand, it's a very grey. Coercive control. When you're in any relationship, right, yeah, we're all coercively controlled to some degree. When you're in a marriage, you can't exactly go and sleep around. Ultimately, you can't do what you want.
So this was all used against you in a family court?
Yeah, I had variations.
So it's not criminal court?
No, this is not criminal
court. So then
court.
you won't be charged, or you won't have anything?
No, you won't be charged. No, but the thing is this, because I was NFA'd, so because there wasn't enough evidence to substantiate any of this, I was no further action ultimately, and I got out. But the thing is this, it's not the criminal court they need this for. Because they've had you arrested on this, no evidence found, you are now released. Yeah? They go to Women's Aid, they've now secured the first step, that police were called. Women's Aid, they've now registered with Women's Aid then secure legal aid. So you have to have the whole shenanigans, the drama, the police to secure the legal aid.
So ultimately, the family court is used to prevent you from accessing your children, right?
No, but you got to understand, it's the mechanisms in the system and how they're used. So the system's there. So you got to understand, you break up, you're arrested that same day. They've now secured legal aid. Now with that legal aid, what they do is saying, this is a victim of abuse. Doesn't matter that the police have NFA'd you with no evidence. Women's Aid have secured a legal aid lawyer in that case, and they've secured that 20, 30 grand for that victim. Women's Aid have got another tick in the box, more funding from government. Legal aid lawyer is going to make potentially 20 to 30,000 pounds on the back of this. So what they'll do is they'll
carry on with the case even if they feel.
So she's now become, by default, she's become resident parent. Because you've been NFA'd, so straight away when they secure legal aid, they apply for what is called a non-molestation order and an occupation order. So that's what happened to me. I come out of the police station, go home, pick up my keys and van. I thought, I can't go to the house. It's a bit risky. She could call the police, say anything. I need to be away from there. So I just go to work for 3 days. I don't go home, right, yeah? It's all a bit awkward. You're emotional. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the future holds. Your whole life has been, the rug from under your life has been pulled out overnight, ultimately. You could say it was self-inflicted. You could say, well, you did the lark, but potentially there was no other way out. 10 years. I gave it 10 years. I did it for my kids, naively thinking, even if we split up, at least when I'm with my kids, I can be a father, I can be me, they can be themselves, and we can have that relationship and influence and bond, not realizing how bad the laws are. Now, I knew fathers weren't favored in the country, and this is what I'm trying to talk about, the illusion. I knew fathers weren't favored. I know the law's stacked against men, but not to this extreme. You know, I thought, we're in England, we have courts and judges and procedures and process.
Yeah, justice system.
Yeah, England conquered 3 parts of the world. They have processes. It's a solid country. You know, if you're thinking of a court back home, right, you're thinking like, maybe not, right, yeah? But here you have this perception of justice and equality and whatnot, right? So based on that, I'm thinking whatever happens, when this all pans out, I'll have my time with the kids, naively believing that. Now, you got to understand, when I was living in the family home with her, I was controlled with what happened with me and the kids. So when you think about it, if I pulled the trigger and got out, what were the chances I was ever going to see them again? Looking back now, it was a given, like it wasn't going to happen. She weren't going to play ball. They were of that mindset ultimately, but I didn't see it coming. And the fact that they knew all the mechanisms in the law. So then straight away, a week later...
When you said they, so her and her family as well,
they must have been in on
some way.
They must have, but her mum and dad knew all these stories that she'd been telling them about me over 10 years. They believed I was a monster anyway, regardless. So that was irrelevant. They treated me with contempt and respect. Her dad had a bit of money. So, you know, when you're sitting with someone who always keeps telling you about how much money they got and this and that, there's an element of looking down upon us, and I think the fact that a guy that he looked down upon actually pulled the trigger, thinking, "How dare you do that? You're beneath us." I think there was a bit of that playing out.
Pull the trigger on divorcing her.
Pull the trigger on divorcing. Let's be clear, right? Yeah, listen, let's just be clear on this. Yeah, pull the trigger on actually doing the talaq, nothing else. Yeah. So, you know, there was all of that side to it, and then. But her, like I said, this person that I was living with for 10 years, you got to understand, even if you see a lie or hear a lie repeated often enough, eventually you'll believe it's the truth. Psychologists have said this, studies have shown this, I'm not saying this. When you're living with someone like that for 10 years, you know all of this is happening, but she's got this persona of the victim. You start seeing, I saw her as a victim myself for 10 years. If I divorce her, where's she going to go? What's she going to do? How's she going to manage?
So you must have had that conversation, because just fast forward a bit, when you were speaking about divorce at some point within those 10 years, you didn't speak about the children, what would happen. And
I never spoke about divorce.
You never spoke about it?
I never spoke about it. I never triggered it. I never, I was against divorce. I didn't believe in it. I was from a generation, so I never talked. These are thoughts in my own head. Like, what do you do? I used to dream and visualize.
So even in a heated argument or during a bumpy road or something like that?
I used to avoid arguments. I used to avoid any conflict or confrontation. I was living with someone where I had no real communication. People don't understand. When you live with someone, when you meet someone like this in any aspect of life, so let's say I bump into you on the bus stop or the road or at work, when you get a feel that the conversation's a little bit awkward or forced, you just tend to avoid that person because there's not a natural flow. When you're forcing a conversation, you know the conversation's forced and it's awkward. Yeah, like this conversation's just happening, right? If it was forced or awkward, we would feel it. But when you're living with someone like that, you're married to this person, you are alone, like you're with a grown-up child, ultimately. You have no conversation. Everything's met with some resistance. Let me give you an example. So if we're talking about finances, I'm saying, right, these are our monthly expenses. We need to find out what we're spending, what we're not, to see what we got. No. I said, no, what are you talking about? I said, we need some idea of what we're spending, like, of what the budget is, what we need every month. Well, if I need money, you should just give me money, like a childlike response. And when an adult is like ultimately talking to a child, eventually you realize that it's no point. You're not going to win with a mad person or a child. You got to just, so I just never used to engage in that capacity. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But I never thought of it. I had to soldier on for my kids. I didn't believe in divorce. I didn't know there was a way out. So I never spoke about it.
What's the situation now? Are you seeing your children now?
I haven't seen my children since March the 16th, 2022. I haven't seen them. I haven't spoken to them. I haven't seen a picture. I haven't heard their voice. I don't even know what they look like ultimately right now. It's pushing up to 3.5 years.
Wow.
Once that non-molestation order, an occupation order was given to me, something went wrong with the system. You're meant to go back within 8 weeks, so they need to sort out what you're doing, because overnight you're removed from your home. Overnight, all my belongings, everything gone. I'm living in the back of a van, living in friends' sofa, parents' house here and there, and just trying to make sense of this, all while you're not seeing your kids. You have no idea what's going on. You don't know when you're going to see them. You don't know if you're going to lose your whole life's work and be made homeless permanently, or where your direction of your life's going to go. And add to that, where you're meant to go back and stand your ground with the court to say that whether they're going to keep this molestation order and occupation order in place, something went wrong in the system. My case got lost, and it just ran on for 2 years. So I just lived in limbo for 2 years straight.
SubhanAllah.
Wow.
We're sort of running out of time,
Yes.
and there was so many questions.
But
that
you know
we wanted
what?
to ask.
We need to have a part 2.
We need to have a part 2, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I have to give a quick message to everyone listening. And if you've made it this far, I was so engaged in what you were saying that, there's so many questions I wanted to give, I didn't give. But one thing in our deen, subhanAllah, that is a major sin is to break the ties of kinship. And Allah says so many times in the Quran, in fact, in Surah Muhammad, He described it, so would you perhaps, if you turned away, cause corruption on earth and sever your ties of kinship, those are the ones whom Allah has cursed. So, corruption and severing the ties on earth are similar, a major sin, and the curse of Allah is upon you. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the one who cuts the ties of kinship does not enter paradise. And wallahi, this is such a big thing. And this isn't just for the woman as well, this is for the men who do this, because men do this as well, but women more so in the West that I've witnessed, and as we're talking about today.
They have the license for it.
Yeah.
It's
and
normalized.
another
for them.
thing as well.
They're championed for it.
Wallahi, another thing as well, Mu'az, we were speaking about this. As Muslims, you don't turn to the Book of Allah when you come to this situation. You go to the legal system, which is against the Tawgut system, which is completely against Allah and His Messenger. Yeah. And you talk about the Day of Judgment as well. Ittaqillah, both brothers and sisters.
Yeah, Brother Farook, Jazakallah khair for coming. We definitely need to have a part 2. Comment below, guys, if you do want to see a part 2. There's so much to get into. We want to know about how you coped over the last 2-3 years. What did you do? What kind of coping mechanism did you have? How did you, just essentially, how did you get through it? And how do you stay so strong? Because at the end, I'm thinking there's going to be a happy ending where you were reunited with your child. Because we had another guest, Brother Mizan, who same exact blueprint, same situation, but was reunited with his son after 2 years, who miraculously even remembered him as well, even though they left him at the age of 2. But there is, there's a lot of struggle from your side, and
there is.
I actually I admire how you've been so composed and you've kept it together. And like Saif said, I've just been sat here just listening and watching and forgetting all of the questions that I had from how well you speak, and I'm sure the way you've articulated yourself and the way you've spoken and expressed yourself, it's a way of you coping as well.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Thanks a lot, bro. Do you have any closing statements?
I just want to say, look, appreciate you guys having me. And yes, the journey from this point on is a whole different chapter. So that decade was one thing. The next chapter is a whole new journey and a whole new turmoil. So definitely we need to do this. My message to everyone out there is ultimately you might be bad husbands, you might be bad wives, but doesn't make you bad parents, doesn't make you bad mothers or fathers. You need to co-parent for the sake of your children to give them the best chance in life. So this trauma does not get passed down onto them, and ultimately give them the best start, inshallah. So yes.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate that. Guys, we've been Triple A Talks. I've been your host, Mu'az.
Safe.
And our guest?
Farook, Disqualified Dads.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.